What's good, guys? I have a killer podcast episode for you today talking about the NFT market. A lot of hot topics. Bored Apes have been going nuts lately. Some people think they could actually flip Phunks. So I'm bringing on Deeze to talk about it. He's an early NFT investor, has a ton of Phunks, has his hands in some of the most expensive NFTs in the world, has a big community, massive following on Twitter, over 100,000 followers, where he only covers NFTs. So if I ever want to talk NFTs, I bring Deeze on, I ask him all the questions that you probably have. Oh, and one more quick note before we do get into this episode, hit the like button right down below. I'm back to putting out a lot of market updates, a lot of podcast episodes with the topics that crypto investors want to hear from. So if you guys want more of those, hit the like button, subscribe right down below, drop a comment, let me know you're still out there. It helps me. And I appreciate you guys. Let's get into the show with Deeze.
There's only one way out from here, and that's up.
We're going up! It's $100 million.
How we doing, man? It's good to have you back. What's going on?
It's going well. I'm glad to be back. It's been a wild, 3 months since we last talked.
It's been 3 months, dude?
Yeah, I think we talked about the middle of August, and now it's the middle of November.
That feels like a year. It feels like multiple cycles, multiple bull and bear cycles in the NFT market, in the Bitcoin market. That's insane. That's crazy.
It also kind of feels like it was last week too.
That's what I mean.
This weird relationship where time is both faster and slower.
Did you bring your crystal ball? Last time we talked, I don't know the exact numbers you gave. I don't know the exact plan. I didn't go back and watch. I do remember, though, and you tweeted at me, I think you were pretty spot on how you thought this NFT mania was going to play out, the peak, the euphoria, and now NFTs are in a bit of a bear. Like, where are we with NFTs? What was the plan back then? I think you were spot on.
Yeah, the plan was not to get caught up in the hype and to cut enough bags and get a liquid amount of ETH that you're really happy with going into an expansion phase on ETH basically. And I didn't follow my own advice in the sense that I didn't sell enough of my NFTs. I bag held some high price items down quite a bit now. But I had enough, and I sold it, over 4,500 when ETH was over 4,500. Didn't sell the exact top, but I sold enough to be happy. And now it's, I don't know what's going to happen. I think Ethereum and Bitcoin are obviously going to retrace for a little bit. And we're starting to see the NFT market pick up as Ethereum starts to retrace. Mm-hmm. So I think, there's an opportunity for some consolidation in the Ethereum and Bitcoin market, and then maybe for some NFT, at least a dead cat, which is, I think, the start of what we're seeing at the minimum here with Bored Apes and Unit Apes and Doodles and a few other projects that are really popping off right now.
Yep. Before we talk about all those market moves, I'm going to take one step back for people that are unfamiliar, at least maybe, I don't know, maybe they're new to NFTs, whatever it is. They aren't as familiar with what you do. You've been heavy in Phunks. We talked about it in the last episode, but for people that don't go back and don't get caught up, I just want to get them caught up real quick. You've been heavy in the Phunk market since the beginning of the year. You spend a lot of time with NFTs. You work at fractional art. What do you spend your time doing? How would you describe what you do so people can be caught up?
Yeah, I spend 80% of my time awake looking at Discord and Twitter and Nansen, and that's really the TLDR. I'm in the communities a lot of these big projects, and I'm also just keeping a pulse on the market every day. I host a bunch of Twitter spaces that are, different shapes and sizes, whether they're serious discussions about good topics or shit posting while we're lit at midnight. It's a wide range. But yeah, I just spend most of my time hyper engaged with the NFT community at large.
Yep. And you're being humble, but you're a big Phunk holder. You've owned almost every NFT is out there. It feels like, at least the blue chip ones. You've had your hands in a little bit of everything. Yeah,
I got started with Phunks, and they're still probably my biggest bet. But I have tried to get involved with every community that I've seen that has potential. Mm-hmm. I think, we were so early to the space, and we still are in a way, but there's just a lot of really common sense alpha to just betting on teams that you like with communities that you like. And mm-hmm. at least over the short midterm, that's good for price. Long term, we don't know how well everyone will execute, but in the short and midterm when everything is kind of speculating anyway, those are the places I like to bet on.
Yep. And up until what was the peak of the NFT market? Probably like August, maybe early September. That seems like even the casual NFT person, I mean, you scroll YouTube, it seems like it's still happening today. But anyone basically that had an internet connection was making bets in NFTs and they were working, right? That like peaked early September, you think?
Yeah, I would say around the last week of August, first week of September is when we peaked. I remember I went on vacation right around the peak. Visa bought a punk and tweeted about it while I was like in an Uber on the way to the Ice Bags and Sobe and a few other people in Florida. And I remember thinking like, fuck, I want to get out of the Uber and like turn around and go home to my hardware wallet and like buy these punks because this is the freest money ever. And I didn't do that. And I went on vacation, and that like whole week felt like it was the top. Like art blocks were going, like 1,000 ETH ringers were going like every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had the Zamo buying the God mode Fidenza, but he only bought a portion of it for like 2,000 ETH.
Yep.
2,500 ETH. You had all these crazy sales happening, and then like end of September, October has just been barren as Ethereum just slowly like marches up. I think Ethereum was like under $3,000 at the start of October, and it just did like a slow march up to $4,800 basically.
Yep.
And during that time, NFTs were just really calm. Like gas is expensive. People don't want to spend like 0.05 in gas to buy like a 0.1 ETH item on OpenSea.
Right.
And it was just brutal.
And that's what we've been living through, because it seems like it's funny. You scroll Twitter. I think crypto's kind of like this anyways. Like what's happening in the market is maybe somewhat disconnected from what people are talking about on Twitter. Like they just kind of like to perpetuate these ideas. And I've been reading so many threads lately, it seems. People are obsessed by saying when the bear market hits for NFTs, like it's going to be really bad. And each time I read that, I'm like, I think we've been going through kind of the bear market for NFTs. Like, sure, punks are still high. Blue chip projects are still priced very high. But in reality, 97%, maybe higher, of NFT projects it's been pretty brutal. Like it's been tough. Like liquidity's gone down. Prices, a lot of those projects have gone down. Activity's gone down. That's the case, right? Like I'm not crazy, am I?
No, you're pretty spot on. I think like the bear market, at least, I've been in NFTs for a little over a year now, and this was probably like the third bear market over the last year, if you want to go on like month cycles. And each time they only last like a month or two. Yeah. And then there's another hype cycle. So, I mean, is there a chance this is some new paradigm where we're on these extremely fast cycles and we don't break off into like a slower cycle? I guess maybe. I think a lot of us are just scarred from 2017. Like I know, like, full stop, like I'm so biased from my experience in 2017 that I'm like so much more about capital preservation and like minimizing my max regret and all that stuff than I am like chasing another 10x or 50x.
Right. And the numbers also are a little bit bigger too, right? That affects it. It's like, it's a diminishing utility for every dollar you earn. It's like when you're deep in a poker tournament, it's like, yeah, maybe don't be as aggressive here. Things are pretty good. It doesn't matter if I double this again. I'm happy with my stack.
Yeah, I don't have the like Sam Bankman-Fried version of linear utility wealth. Like I'm not trying to like save the world like that. So yeah, I think I'm just a normal person who is starting to look at things and be like, wow, like change, my life, my family's life, and be comfortable while still having a good amount of JPEGs. Like I don't need to take as many risks.
Sure. What do you think? What do you think has caused over the past, let's call it 2 months, if we say for right now at least, the local high or the peak of NFTs thus far was basically early September. ETH was around 4K. That seems like when they peaked, and then it dipped. We get below 3K, and it's been a grind up basically for all crypto assets. Bitcoin rebounded, ETH rebounded. Basically everything's kind of gone up and been climbing up. We're dipping in the past week, but everything's just been going up almost in a straight line. Do you think that's been the biggest challenge for NFTs? It's because ETH is going up and people want to hold ETH, Or is it because fees got ridiculous? Or is it just because the prices got too high in NFTs? Like, what's the biggest factor if you had to point to one or two?
Yeah, I think it was the two you just mentioned, mostly the price going up, and there's a lot of short-term thinkers in the market who are suddenly preferring like having liquidity of ETH that's going up versus the dollar versus like holding their NFT project that they loved a month ago. We see that a lot. Like we see some really strange flips too, where people like within a span of an hour give up on a bag and dump the NFT for like a 50% loss, and you're just like, what are you thinking? But the gas definitely hurts like the low end speculating, because the projects that are like 0.1 ETH a pop, now your gas fee is like 30 or 40% of your actual NFT fee, and that kind of hurts like liquidity and speculating at the low end of things. And then like what we're seeing right now is a sudden shift to like higher quality projects. It's like Bored Apes are pumping. And then Mutant Apes, which are, you know, just under Bored Apes, are also pumping. And then we're seeing like Doodles go for a run. So I don't know, like these aren't like 0.1 ETH projects, but I haven't been tracking the floor of like the super cheap ones to know if they're also running. Because gas is still expensive now, even though Ethereum's down a little bit. Like it's showing me it's like 150 Gwei. And yeah, it's still expensive. So even though, you know, gas is up, the high end pieces, they don't really care, because like if you're paying 2 ETH or 5 ETH for something, you don't really care about the gas fee. Yeah. Compared to if you're paying 0.1.
Right. It's just a larger percentage of the sale. What seems, what kind of is fascinating to me, it seems like there's a divergence of blue chips and then the rest of the NFT market. And I kind of think this is how it's going to play out long term anyways, because that would replicate what happens in the normal art world. Like you can walk down the street, you know, and if you buy a painting or whatever from a street art guy, it's like, yeah, like the price of that is always going to be rather low, and that doesn't really affect like the high end art market. But in NFTs, it seems like there was like, for whatever reason, they were kind of coupled together. And it's just because NFT mania hit. So like as a ton of retail speculators were getting in and buying, you know, random profile picture NFTs that were super cheap, it was like people were saying, oh man, the NFT market's growing so much, OpenSea volumes are up, and then blue chips would pump even more. And it became this weird thing where like they were moving together. And lately it's just been, sure, some blue chip projects can have a run. Lately it's been Bored Apes, but like the rest of the market still isn't popping off. I kind of think that's how things work long term anyways. Like most NFT projects will be kind of worthless, but like, you know, the very expensive and highly sought after art will always do well. And that kind of matches what happens in the real world. But I'm curious, like, I don't know, that seems like such a strange idea to most NFT speculators. They're like, this is weird. NFTs are down. Only blue chips are doing well. In my mind, I'm like, I feel like that's how it's kind of always going to work. Like there's going to be periods where the cheap projects do well and we have booms and busts, but I think this is going to kind of be the norm. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would agree. And I would say I structured my portfolio to agree with that take as well. Like most of what I own is blue chip stuff. And I think like this is just the way the market is filtering. You know, I don't want to call things garbage and junk, but it's the way it's just filtering the projects, right? Yeah. You have these periods of time where there isn't as much hype. So the things people are actually putting money into are fewer and far in between. Yeah. But it's also a signal for like, hey, this is where like capital who's still here is allocating to. So maybe that's sharp, like to follow it. Because like it depends on your mentality as you're flipping NFTs too. Like some people are really short term, like trying to capitalize on the hype movement of just the apes in the last day or two and like trying to flip a unit for a couple ETH. Whereas other people are looking for more like sizable shifts in the market and thinking like, you know, what if cats get to like 50% of apes? What does that scenario look like? And what happens if, you know, dead fellas or robotos or doodles or whatever turn into cats? And then like, you know, betting on that stuff, it takes more time than just like these short-term speculators. Yeah.
What's been the blue chip project that got hurt the most? I don't keep as close of an eye on it as you do. I don't have a feel for that, but just from a bird's eye view, it feels like generative art and a lot of those art blocks projects, which were all the rage. It seems like I haven't seen anyone talk about those. And I saw one screenshot, the prices were down ridiculously versus like Phunks, I think, are doing okay. Bored Apes are doing okay. Seems like in one of ones, I imagine they're okay. I mean, they're illiquid, so it's hard to tell. But it seems like generative art, it seems like that's one craze that was so hype, and now like no one's focused on that. What do you make of that?
Yeah, so I would say there's a select few of these generative projects that held up relatively decent. Like Fidenza Floor, it was actually down to 75 a couple days ago, but it's back up to 122. And Squiggles are still like well above 5, but like a lot of the middle tier just completely fell out. So like art types were almost 75 at one point. Now they're like 15 again. They may be 20, but like they've went way down. Like Subscapes, which were over 50, are now under 10. Singularities, which were like almost 20, are now under 5. So like a lot of these like middle tier ones got hit really hard, which I think is right. I mean, the whole kind of ethos of art blocks, like they've been really public about it, is that it's to open up a platform for artists to drop art. Like it's not supposed to be like a curated, locked up system where like they're only going to supply one project a week or something like that to the market. So over time, like most of them should, in my mind, drop, but there are some that will, stand the test of time because they're either aesthetically pleasing or the artist was important or a combination of both. And there's been some that have went up like a significant amount too. I mean, like 2-3x from the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's just like you said, it's being filtered more between the blue chips and the not, but like the sectors themselves may be waning on like the median side of things, but the blue chip of those sectors is rebounding better than the median.
Yep. One thing that has turned around, I don't really understand why. I'm okay saying that because I hope you can tell me, why are Bored Apes? That has been the one thing that absolutely boomed, and a lot of at least kind of, I think I follow some sharp NFT traders. I hope they are, because they kind of keep me in tune with what's happening. They were saying, don't mistake the Bored Ape and the Mutant Ape Yacht Club. Don't mistake that bull market and that bounce for NFTs kind of having a rebound. What's going on? Why is just that project, it feels like, catching so much attention right now?
I mean, it feels like there's been a combination of good press and good marketing on top of just the hype of NFT NYC. I think a lot of them got together for the first time, and they're kind of a polarizing group, right? Like some people look at them and they're like, oh wow, that's not my type. Like I'm not into the hype beast energy.
Yeah.
And then other people, they're like, oh, this is my tribe, and it kind of makes them like even more engaged. So I feel like since like NFT NYC, I've seen a lot more like ape engagement across social media. And then on top of that, you have the I forget that group, but the group that has bought basically Punks for like Post Malone, Jimmy Fallon,
MoonPay, I think.
Yeah, MoonPay. Sorry, I don't know why I keep forgetting their name, but yeah, they basically sponsored these celebs and like made a deal to get them apes. But that's being marketed really well. And I think on top of that, like the Bored Ape community has made so much money from being in the Bored Ape community.
Yeah.
But they're very loyal. Like a lot of these people, Bored Ape was their big win.
Yeah.
And now they're really loyal to this ecosystem.
Yeah.
Which creates like interesting price dynamics when there's not a lot of like the market isn't ripping by itself. It's just Bored Apes. And I think that's because of like their community and the way that they've kind of grown.
Yeah. It's like whenever a coin pot, like the Link Marines had that, I think coins go through this where if a coin does so well for its early supporters, it's like then it builds, the Links had Link Marines, Ripple. I think the army has disbanded. But for a while there was a Ripple army, and it was like people that bought in, below a penny were so rich that they would defend it. It was the greatest coming since Bitcoin. And like Bored Apes, it feels like you're going through that. Then you add on NFT NYC, you add on some of these celebrities getting in, and it does. Like they get swept up in the idea that Bored Apes are the biggest thing on earth. A lot of people are calling for Bored Apes to eventually flip in the punk floor. You had an opinion on that. What you don't think that's going to happen, do you?
I mean, it's definitely, in my mind, unlikely, but not like super unlikely. I think Punks, what they have going for them is that there's no expectation of anything other than when you buy it, you're buying it because of the art. Like, like Larva Labs really hasn't delivered anything on Punks in 4 years. Like, you don't really expect. I always laugh when people buy a Punk and they're like, why isn't Larva Labs putting on an event at NFT like the Apes? And it's like, that's not the point of Punks. Like, the point of Punks is you're buying it as like a collectible, whereas the point of Apes is, in my mind, you're buying it for like a ticket into the community,
a club, yeah,
and you're buying it to be in this like social club. And for that to outperform Punks, like Punks is probably going to do nothing in that regard. And if there is anything that comes out, it's going to be community driven, not Larva Labs driven, and that's just like additional upside in my mind. But just on the baseline assumption that they do nothing. First, the Apes, they need to continually, like, they've only been out for 6 months, and they need to continually make this community happy and continually execute on their ideas. And they have to be like bigger and better to keep up with the hype.
Right.
So there's execution risk that the Apes have long term that the Punks just simply don't have, because no one fucking cares about like what Larva Labs does with Punks outside of like, they hope that they stop DMCAing people, and they hope they let the fucking Punks just be open and vibe. Like, that's all people want out of Punks. Whereas the Apes, they have all these expectations.
It kind of feels like a Bitcoin versus ETH thing. And I know some people might be mad at that analogy, but it feels, Punks being obviously the Bitcoin here of people buy NFTs for a lot of reasons, partially access into a group, partially as like a digital flex, a status thing, all those reasons. It feels like, at least to me, being a bit of an outsider, Punks are bought more of like a storing your wealth or like a long-term blue chip NFT play, more of like, just kind of a flex thing versus Apes. It feels like on the Ethereum side of, we're doing new things. We have all these upgrades coming. We're going to launch a game. We're going to, get you a concert. It feels like that's kind of the hype they're playing of. We have, there's so much activity happening here. That's why Apes are better.
Yeah, and I think that, gives the project the upside to flip Punks, right?
Yeah.
Like, having all of that hype and, potential deliverables really creates a lot of excitement that can propel them forward ahead of Punks. That's why, I think there's a lot of Punk owners who don't weight that in their decision making.
Mm-hmm.
I have, more Punks than Apes, but I also still have a couple Apes and Mutants, and I still have exposure to their ecosystem because I do think the upside is too obvious to keep ignoring it. And I've had mine for, since the floor was 7 ETH. So I was late, really. If you think about it, I got an honorary Ape. I could have minted them, but I didn't buy Apes until they were 7 ETH. So it took me a while to change my bias, but once I did, it became pretty clear why they're, so high upside.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here because I just want to go back, and I'm sure we'll chat sometime in 2022 again. Do you think we do see the flipping? Taking, either side can hate. I'm not trying to put you on the spot and have people call you out, but I am curious on just your thoughts. You had such a good crystal ball last time with how the NFT market would play out. I don't think they're going to flip in the Punk floor, but I'm curious your thoughts.
If it was 50-50 odds and I had to bet on it, I would still bet on the Punks floor to outpace the Apes. But I think there's probably
there's a
20
chance.
to 25% shot that they do flip Punks, because they can really deliver on a bunch of things, and this ecosystem is rabid with dedicated holders. So it's definitely non-zero, and I think it's higher than people think it is, but I still put my money on the Punks.
Yep. With NFT, this bear market, beside the apes that are partying and listening to this and think that percentage is higher, what needs to change, I guess? One thing that for the bull market to resume, what needs to change? One thing that I used to watch with alts is, and it seems like this has been a thing basically until this year, of whenever ETH would catch a local high or Bitcoin would catch a local high in 2018 and 2017, that bull market, this was the most pronounced. Alts could really run after Bitcoin would catch a high because people would take all their Bitcoin they'd made. They'd say, oh, it's not going up anymore. I'm going to pile it into alts. It seems like NFTs have a bit of that same dynamic in the sense of when ETH can top out, then NFTs can really run because people aren't as worried about holding their ETH. you think if ETH is pulling back now, do you think that this potentially sparks a chance for like the rest of the NFT kind of ecosystem to take off, or are fees going to really hold us back?
I mean, I think it definitely gives us a good chance. It's a great spark if we have enough kindling that can catch fire there. I am more optimistic than pessimistic that it will. Like, I don't think Ethereum is just going to bounce here and go back to like 5K.
Yeah.
Maybe it does, and that's good. But I think that what's more likely to happen is some type of consolidation. I don't know how low we'll go. Like, I could see 3,600 or even lower. But I think in that scenario with consolidation, it really does give the NFT market legs. Fees will be lower. The price of ETH is lower. And also that, you know, there's hopefully less demand for block space to trade like dog coins and ohm forks and all that shit in a consolidation phase. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely hopeful. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at their tax scenario too and thinking like, oh, we need a liquidity event to get out.
Yeah.
And maybe that whatever pump we get, I don't know. It's just speculation that like it could be slightly muted based off of people's realization of their tax situation.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's another part of me that thinks that like most people are oblivious and not going to care until they look at the numbers next March.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm looking at the numbers ahead of time because I'm paranoid. But yeah, that's kind of where I base like my risk management off of too. Is like, okay, is all that shit that I'm going to have to deal with next year taken care of? And if it is, that allows me to be like more comfortable taking riskier positions and maybe these local bottoms of NFTs.
It's just so it's hilarious for me to think about NFT cycles, and I think the reason it's so fun and that it still dominates. We talked about this before. NFT cycles like dominate Twitter, regardless of what's happening with NFTs. NFTs could be in a bit of a bear market, and people are still obsessed with talking about whether NFTs are going to rebound. Like even traders that focus solely on Bitcoin and ETH, it's like everyone loves to speculate on the NFT mania, on the bear market. Like it seems like no matter what happens for basically the majority of 2021, it's been such a focal point. Like even when the market dies down, NFTs are still taking up such a large percentage of the mind share. And it's just kind of funny because, you look at art markets generally in real life, they go through like different cycles. They're kind of uncorrelated to everything else. Like rare cars and rare art isn't really affected by bear markets in Bitcoin and ETH. And it's just funny like to see that happening here of like these cycles really are different. And it's just so captivating for people. Like people just love to think and talk and discuss and speculate on what's going to happen with NFTs, even if they're not in NFTs. I'm a bit surprised that it's caught so much of the mind share for so long this year. Like it never really reached a point of, wow, that cycle was crazy. It's all over. Like even when it's been down, people are still like, is it going to bounce? What's this project doing? There's a new launch. Like people love it. Yeah,
I still think it just feels way more like a video game than ERC20 tokens or like any token game. DeFi is fun. Like watching numbers go up and math go up is fun, but speculating on pictures and like memes and shit posts and like that stuff is, I feel like such a like an order of magnitude more addicting to like a bigger audience.
Yeah.
That just don't like the token games and don't have fun with the token games. Whereas like even the people not involved with NFTs, like it's fun to speculate on them.
Yeah.
And then the culture of like right-click saving and like the anti-NFT culture creates this like kind of fun combative engagement zone on Twitter where like, one day we're right-click saving all the furry pictures and making a Pepe with a top hat middle finger.
That was incredible.
Selling it in front of the furry's face. And then there's other days where it's like the climate people are coming in and I don't know. I think it's just like, it's so entertaining. It's so much more entertaining than like, oh, this token's up 3% versus ETH on the day. And like, there's a new farm that I'm getting 7-figure APY on that's probably going to run me.
That's one thing I didn't have in my 2021 bingo card was the furry community. And for people listening that aren't familiar with what happened or watching, furries, literally furries, people that dress up, I think they're, I don't even know if I should call people. They're different pronouns. I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone. If you're a furry and listening, I think you're called a fursona or something. I've seen in Twitter bios. But furries, people that wear animal costumes, I think they go to conventions and maybe that's their whole personality. Once again, full respect. They've been very upset with the NFT community. It seems like they're sparring head to head. And someone, I believe it was Vincent Van Doe, a pretty big NFT collector, took a lot of their pictures and said, I'm going to make an NFT, because they're kind of famous for saying, the NFTs are destroying the environment. We can just right click save. These are worthless. And so he said, okay, I'm going to make this an NFT. If it's worthless, you can right click save. And that has ensued an even bigger war of they took down the NFT. I mean, where's that at now?
I don't think, did they actually take down the NFT?
It got DMCA'd, I think, but I saw another sale of that. There's a collage now of like 50 furries that said NFTs are worthless. And I think that's NFT is still up somewhere.
Yeah, I remember that one. And then he tweeted that any persona that he right-click saved, if he got an address from them, he would send them $5 grand in ETH or something. And I don't know how many people actually took that.
He said one or two
opportunity, but like pretty good, right? Like if you just got your picture right-click saved and then put into a portrait, getting an ETH for that,
pretty good.
Could have been a good way to onboard some people, but I think there's just a lot of dogmatic thinking, and it's an overarching issue in our society, not even just related to crypto, but just like how polarizing everything is, and how like you need to be team A or team B, team blue or red. There's just like binary dogmatic ways of thinking about things, and there's no nuance, and it's just sad.
It's been fun to follow. I'll tell you that. Whatever side of the aisle you're on, if you're a furry and you hate NFTs, if you love NFTs and you just enjoy Twitter wars, it's been hilarious. Like when the market's slow, I've never had more enjoyment of watching people with, it's funny because the furry NFT, like their profile pictures, I would think that they'd be all about NFTs. They have a lot of the same kind of ideas. Yes. They have these anime, profile pictures. Then you have the NFT people. The profile pictures look very similar. We're all playing the same thing. We're in this metaverse called Twitter. It's fun to play a character and hang out with your friends, and it's just so funny to see the two factions war.
That's like, yeah, it's always entertainment, and I think that's what keeps people coming back to the NFTs, right? It's just like tribal entertainment system.
What do you think of? There's another war going on. I'm trying to ask as many punk owners about this as possible. I just got kind of caught up with the history of this in the past week. What do you make of the funk versus punk thing? I've always kind of looked at derivative projects of any NFT, whether it's punks, because people have made 50 copycat punk projects, right? They make baby punks, they make fast food punks, and I've kind of always looked at them and said, that's fun if people want to do it, but over time, I think those things will probably trend to zero. Provenance plays a role, community plays a role, and those are always going to be, punks already have that. You can check the chain. They were first, they were the original. Clearly more people want to own a punk than want to own a knockoff version. Phunks, though, are kind of in this weird position, at least my understanding, because they're now standing for something else. It's like, yes, they were a copycat, but I don't think anyone's buying a funk because they think it's a punk. They're buying it because they now stand for, you can't DMCA us. We should be able to exist as a decentralized, this is the new Web3 thing. Don't censor us. We just want to be a flipped version of punks. And it seems like that project's been popping off. What do you make of the funk versus punk? Do you have any opinion, or do you not even want to comment on it?
No, I will always comment. I'm very open and honest. I think like any punk derivative is a net good thing for punks. Like if anyone's taking the time to copy a punk and then sell it to other people, and then there's a market for that, like I think it just kind of, steel man's punks in a way, or like it makes punks a stronger brand. I have no problem with the funks. Like I think the people on Twitter get a little carried away, and they like come. I muted a bunch of them because they come after like punk owners just to antagonize. Like it's not a good faith discussion. It's like, why don't you own your funk? I own it. I own you. Like fuck yourself type stuff. And it's like, okay, dude, like you're good.
Chill out.
okay, yeah, like I don't have anything to say. Like it's just like you're wasting my time by commenting on my shit, being an idiot.
Right.
And that's how I feel about like most of the funks I see on Twitter, because I only see them when they're commenting being an idiot. So like I'm sure their community isn't all like that, but the only ones I ever see are the people that chirping in the
Yeah.
replies, and you're just like, all right. But I think like overall, like it's interesting they just jacked the Larva Labs marketplace and made it their own. I think like it's a cool thing that leads more value back to punks at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
good for them.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well when I looked at it. Because as I said, it's whenever I see a derivative project, I'm like, just not that interesting. Like all the value kind of goes back to the original. This is the first one though, because I've just been following a lot of Punk 4586, one of the giant NFT Twitter accounts, and he's had so many threads on Web3.
The hoodie.
Yeah, and how you shouldn't. We're in a new paradigm where DMCAs won't matter. Like, basically, we're in Web3. Like, check the chain. That's what matters. Provenance matters. Community matters. That's what drives value for these things. And Phunks, I think, are kind of reinforcing the idea of why punks have value. And it's just been so funny for me to kind of watch, like, each community not like each other when I think they're very supportive. It's like, no, this is kind of cool. There's a decentralized version of this. And if anything, they're supporting the punks. Full disclosure, I aped into a funk. So I just think it's like a fascinating experiment of I don't know, man, like it's just fun. I love the NFT wars. I guess it just goes back to the point of like why this is all so fun. You get these warring kind of communities, and what values do people think should have value, and if a punk faces left or right, like why is there such a big price discrepancy? I think funks like teach such an important lesson of like why punks are more valuable. I think that's kind of what makes them cool. It's just been it's been what I've been diving into in the NFT world this week.
Say that because we had a picture taken of us at NFT NYC, this group of four of us, four good friends, and the lady who took it photoshopped our punks on our face.
Yeah,
but the two people on the right, she flipped the punks, so they looked like punks. And we tweeted it like that, and people were like, "Oh, you like funks?" Like they thought it was like a funk post, and then we asked her to like do it where she just kept them all the same orientation. So then we like burned the one with the funks and then just kept the one where they're all facing the same way. But it was kind of funny to see like when we tweeted it, people's reaction was like, "Oh man, you like funks?" And it was like, no, it just makes sense with how the picture is angled. Like those two are looking at the other two.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, funks, they're great. Like I think it's fun to speculate on them too. Like it's just it's kind of, I don't want to say like it's a solved market because funks aren't punks, but like you kind of already know what to look for. It's not like a new project that you need to dissect like traits and rarities. It's like you already know the what's what.
Right. And it's just a funny game theory of like you said, people like yourself, they're going to say, buy your mirror punk, or there's going to be people that think, they can catch the new wave. It's just, it's been a funny rabbit hole to dive into this week. And I'm learning all new dynamics about like what punks think about the funks and the other two sides. So it's been a fun little experiment this week.
I would treat it like hot potato and just try to get rid of it for as fast as you can for like a nice like half ETH or 1 ETH profit.
Yeah, it's just fun. I mean, some of them think that they could be worth 50% of the floor. It's like it becomes this funny thing of like, I don't know how, the thought is like, if enough people do rally behind it and they're like, we don't like what Larva Labs did, the DMCA, and we have our own marketplace, like maybe the value does go up. Like, I don't know. I don't have enough money in it to care that much, but it is. I just think it's just
fun to see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's just it's been so fun for me to watch that like I'm invested more on the entertainment side than I am on the money side. Like I'm not going to pile money into it, but it's man, every single day when I wake up, I check it. It's just it's hilarious, man. It's just NFTs. That's just how it goes.
Like the entertainment value is too high.
What else is going on, dude? I don't think I have too much more. Bored Apes obviously taken off. I'm glad I kind of got your thoughts there on whether or not they're going to flip. I know a lot of people are focused on that. NFT bear market. Looks like the rest of the market's dipping. Like what else is are you thinking about towards the end of the year? Anything else exciting on the NFT side that you think people aren't paying attention to?
There's a couple things that are on my mind. Like the other thing in the market that's ripping is Doodles.
What are doodles?
They're just another profile picture project that came out kind of during the bear in like October.
Okay.
And the floor on them kind of consolidated that they're like private mint. Like you have to get on a whitelist. There's like 5 slots per person, like 5 mint slots. And they kind of gave it to like a bunch of dedicated community members and people who are more like diamond handed. So the floor started out and it never really went under 1 ETH. But over the last week, it's went from like 1 to 3, and it's had its highest volume days, and like people are buying the high end of it now for a big premium. Kind of reminds me of like when Toads went from like 1 ETH to 5 ETH, and the high end kind of expanded really rapidly. So I'm watching them. They're pretty playful. Kind of like reminds me of like the Cool Cats vibe, where it's like this playful colors, family friendly, nothing like, rated R or even really PG-13. But on top of that, there's a avatar project coming out from Avenged Sevenfold called Death Bats Club.
Okay.
And they're kind of taking like the VFriends utility idea, but baking it into their own project.
Like concerts and I imagine albums and stuff.
Guitar lessons with Sinister Gates.
That's sick.
Golf with Matt Shadows. Hang out with the whole band, like different meet and greet type things. Obviously, summer tickets, but they're kind of taking that model of like, how can we give utility to our fans and build something together with them rather than like constantly just charge for tickets and other things.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I'm looking forward to see how that's adopted by their community. I think they're doing a really good job. I talked to Matt a decent amount about it. And other than that, Coinbase NFT platform is coming out toward the end of the year, start of next year. I think that'll be pretty nice. It's going to be non-custodial, kind of like how OpenSea is, but they're making the Coinbase wallet a browser extension.
Very cool.
So I'm interested to see like how that works versus MetaMask. I think a lot of us are pretty unhappy with MetaMask, but also just to have competition for OpenSea is great. So those are kind of some of the things on my radar coming up to the end of the year. Are you going to be in Miami for Art Basel?
So I'll be there for Size Basel.
What day is Size Basel?
I think, gosh, I'm going to release this episode today, so I'm not sure I'm allowed to say the date. I'm not sure it's all public yet, but it'll be one of those days. I'll send you after.
I'll be there for a week, so hopefully get to meet up and vibe. Nice.
Yeah, it'll be like it feels like there's a lot of hype. It's like I think a lot of people watched NFT NYC, myself included, and thought, I'm not that heavy in NFTs. I don't need to go. And then they realized, oh shit, this is giant. This is as big as like a Bitcoin conference. I mean, it looked fun. So I think a lot of people want to go now to NFT week in Miami. NFTs have taken over Art Basel.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just fun, right? Like, you know how it is. You're not really going for the event. You're going for the parties with friends at night and the private dinners and the conversations. And those things, people are there in the NFT space just like they are in the crypto conference space.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm pumped. New York, really, I went like too hard for like 7 days straight. And I have to cut a little back for Art Basel. I can't do that to myself again.
Yeah, I learned that in Bitcoin Miami in what was that, earlier in June or July? It was like I went
that feels like 2 years ago.
Oh my God, it's nuts. I went for the full week, I believe, and I realized like, yeah, that's too much, man. I'm gonna go for, I think, Art Basel for or Size Basel for 4 or 5, maybe 3 or 4 days. I think that's plenty. I can't hang. I can't go the full week partying. I just don't have it in me.
Yeah, I had, one night ate too many shrooms, one night drank too much blackout, and then like you recover and then you go do it again and you're just like, fuck.
Yeah, it's too
much. I go with my wife too, so like she is much more like the chill type. So like, she might go eat some edibles at like 11 and go back to the hotel, and then like
she's smart.
I'll come back at like 5 a.m. and like pound on the door like just blasted like, I'm home. Like, it's great. It's a great balance because it's like she's really good at knowing her limit, and then I just go like balls to the wall, and just whatever happens.
It's I'm looking forward to it, man. Yeah, I'll send you the details about Size Bass. We got to connect there.
It's
yeah, man,
great.
It's Coinbase NFTs. I think that's what people got to watch out for. I'm glad you brought up Avenged Sevenfold launching theirs. I think one theme that I think people should also watch out for, it's become a lot more well known now, is that celebrity NFTs, like most of them have gone to straight shit unless they take the VFriends approach of like, I don't think Gary Vee gets enough credit for like doing things the right way. Like he's actually been building a lot of shit for people that bought his NFT. He's testing a lot of things. He's deep in the community. And like, you know, we're in this weird period where companies like MoonPay, credit to them for bringing celebrities in, but I think people can now see through the bullshit of like, is that celebrity actually in NFTs, or are they just getting bought a punk or an ape? And like, it's cool and it creates buzz. Like I think a lot more people are waking up to that.
Yeah, that's what makes me so excited about the death bats, because my story with Matt is that like he was in the Punks Discord for 3 months and his name is mshadows666, and I just thought he was a fan for like 3 months. Like I never knew who he was. And then like one day he engaged me about like a wicked cranium I had and said like Sinister Gates wanted it and would throw in a guitar on top of ETH. And I was like, wait, like you're the real dude. You're not like just a fan. And since the relationship kind of came through that way, I've always looked at him as like someone who just got involved with the NFT community really early and was just in it for like the art and memes.
Respect.
And so that like gets me really excited about this project, because I know that like I've seen him thinking about this for 7 months in public now. But he's always done it from the way of like, how do we build the best thing for our community, not like how do we extract value. So
right.
Bullish.
It's the right approach. All right, so people need to watch out for that. Coinbase NFT platform launching, potentially Bored Apes flipping punks. I don't think it happens. You don't think it happens. Obviously, I think if you're not tuned into it, I think the funk versus punk thing is absolutely just pure comedy. It's hilarious. So if you're not watching that, I recommend it as well. But man, NFTs, hopefully we do get a rebound. I don't know. If the market keeps dipping, maybe, man, maybe. We'll see.
I mean, if Ethereum goes down to like 3,200 or 3,600 and just bounces around for a week, like that helps NFTs so much in terms of just like, oh, people are bored. My Ethereum price isn't changing USD value. Like, let's go speculate on whatever. So yeah, I'm hopeful we get it.
Yep. Well, we'll see. A lot of that money's still going to blue chips. We'll see if listeners out there with their smaller bags, if they get a bit of a pop. I'm rooting for you. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I hope it does.
I'm rooting for us too.
Yeah. Deeze, that's all I got, man. It's always good to catch up. I imagine we'll do one of these again. Q1 2022. I like to get this rundown, the state of the NFT market, and just catch up with you, man. Hopefully I'll see you in a week or two, man.
Yeah, it sounds good. I know we'll probably see each other in Miami, and then I know we'll definitely talk. Hopefully it's about good things, but even if it's about bad things, we'll have a lot to talk about, I'm sure.
It'll be pure entertainment either way. Appreciate you coming on, man. Talk soon.
Hey.